Back. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, issued a royal decree pardoning 457 inmates on the occasion of the Silver Jubilee of His Majesty's accession to the throne. The royal pardon reflects His Majesty's keenness on the cohesion and solidity of Bahraini society and the protection of its social fabric, and affirms the commitment to the principles of justice and the rule of law, and maintaining judicial independence and reconciling the punishment with the human and social circumstances of the inmates, in addition to providing an opportunity for positive integration into society in a way that upholds human rights values and standards in line with the Kingdom's approach and its regional weight in this regard. The Speaker of the Council of Representatives, Ahmed Al-Msalem, praised the royal decree issued by His Majesty the King, granting a comprehensive pardon to 457 inmates on the occasion of the Silver Jubilee of His Majesty the King's accession to the throne. Al-Msalem emphasized the royal pardon's firm and steadfast approach reflects the wise humanitarian and paternal vision of His Majesty the King and the commitment to providing a decent life for all citizens. He also referred to the relentless efforts and directives of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister in implementing the royal aspirations, strengthening the human rights system, and presenting projects and programs for convict rehabilitation. The Shura Council Chairman Ali Al-Saleh praised the royal decree issued by His Majesty the King to pardon 457 inmates. He affirmed that His Majesty's wise initiatives reflect a humanitarian approach and solid values that promote justice, tolerance and societal stability, expressing pride in His Majesty's care for all. Al-Saleh praised the role and efforts undertaken by the government, headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, to develop programs and implement government initiatives that highlight the values and principles of human rights in Bahrain. This royal pardon represents a continuation of the royal gestures of His Majesty the King. The first royal pardon was in April last year and the second this September, which reflects a royal approach aimed at enhancing reform and construction, emphasizing the cohesion and solidity of Bahraini society and protecting its social fabric.
The royal gestures represent a bright aspect of the reform era led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. In less than 6 months, His Majesty the King issued 2 royal pardons, the first in April and the second in September, reflecting a royal approach aimed at enhancing reform and construction, emphasizing the cohesion and solidity of Bahraini society and protecting its social fabric. The royal pardon, which included 457 inmates, emphasized His Majesty the King's care for his people and His Majesty's high regard for the supreme interest of the nation, while at the same time observing the principles of justice and the rule of law. This royal pardon gives an opportunity to modify behavior and abide by the law. As the nation rejoices, hope remains for those included in the royal pardon and their predecessors, who will return to their community as good individuals for their families and society.
And for more about the royal pardon, we have the following statement from the consultant in European Affairs, Nuno Martins.
I think it's always positive that the path of the rule of law as the basis of democracy is taking part in the Kingdom of Bahrain. For me, it's very positive, and it's an accomplishment of the rule of law and of the will of the state to accomplish the rule of law. The kingdom wants to follow the path of human rights, and the path of human rights is very important to accomplish the rule of law and to accomplish the democratic path that the kingdom wants to have in the future.
We also have the following statement from the EU and human rights expert in Brussels, Vlad Olteanu.
I think it is a very generous gesture, and I think it goes very much into the direction in which places like the European Union would go in such a case. So, in other words, reintegration of inmates, social programs to make sure that they are reintegrated to the society, and given the number, it's also extremely generous, I would say. Well, I think, first of all, it reflects clearly a judiciary system in which His Majesty is basically going towards reintegration, so towards the society and towards how do we bring people who have committed, of course, crimes. That's why they were in prison. But how can we reintegrate them into the society, to their safeguard, but also to the safeguard of the society, generally speaking. It is a very good sign that does happen, and that reintegration does happen as well, as it is, of course, a very kind sign of His Majesty that such a pardon can be issued and is indeed issued.
And to speak more about the royal pardon, we have the following statement from political analyst and diplomat specializing in Middle East affairs, David Powell.
Yesterday's announcement of the release of 457 inmates from prison is significant because it comes in the context of previous releases of inmates, and the official announcement again puts this in the context of Bahrain trying to foster better social cohesion, upholding the principles of justice and rule of law. And as the announcement made clear, the aim of these pardons, of which there was a previous one in April, is to balance the legal accountability of prisoners with a humanitarian and social circumstances of the prisoners and allowing them to reintegrate into society. So the most important thing is this is giving them the opportunity to come back into society and play a useful role within Bahraini society.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Zayani, held a discussion session with the Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade